When I think of formative moments of my childhood, I go to the music of Blink-182 and being disciplined by my great-grandmother with a fly swatter. For some reason in my mind, these two are more similar than they are dissimilar. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Blink. Sweetwater sent me the Tom DeLonge Fender Starcaster, which I got a lot of thoughts about this guitar. And I just wanted to do a little bit of a riff deconstruction on what I consider one of the greatest songs. And then maybe talk a little bit about how listening to people tell me their thoughts on Blink-182 was my introduction to guitar gatekeeping, which is super toxic, and I have a lot of hot takes on that. But first, let's talk about the song Dammit, okay? I think this is maybe like their best, one of my favorite songs for sure, and one of the first riffs I ever learned on a guitar. There's a couple different ways to play it. I'm gonna just break it down and talk about what you can learn from just the music of one of the most influential bands of their era, whether you like it or not, okay? So I'm gonna play the riff super slow. It sounds like this. That's it, that's the whole thing, right? It's super simple, and I think that's why people get so mad at this, all right? So if we think of a root note and then an addition onto that, it becomes a really interesting thing to do. And this is, again, one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar, and I played it very poorly, and it seemed very simple at first, but to get it to sound right was a little trickier. Okay, so we're gonna start with the C, 3rd fret on the A string. So I'm gonna play 2 times on the C, then open D twice, and then 2 on the D string. So C, C, D, D, E. Okay, now the only thing we're gonna change is gonna be the first note that we play. So C, C, G, A, F, and then reverse the riff, okay? So I think this is kind of like, to me, the quintessential pop punk riff, because it is accessible to literally any player. Again, like I said, I had no background in any kind of music, and this is one of the first things that I picked up. And it was something that I could actually wrap my mind around, even though it was just locating. I think I was probably playing it with a pick before I even started playing fingers. And I was like, and I was getting like a lot of open strings kind of going around, which maybe is part of the punk style essentially. But once you kind of really dig into it, there's a lot of play. It's, even though it appears very simple, to kind of get the picking right and to kind of mute the strings around it, I think is really interesting. So just really quick, bear with me. 2 different ways to play this, okay? I kind of prefer playing it like this, where it's 3A open, D, 2D, 3E open, open A, 1E, 2, open. So you swap the last 2 notes, you just kind of switch them back and forth for that F part. Now the other way you could do it, if you wanted to avoid some of the open strings, to kind of have more control over the fretting of it, you could just go like that. So C, C, D, D, E, G, G, D, D. Then you can go open like that, or just down here, A, and then F, or like that, right? A couple different ways to do it, whether you want to fret that D to E, open D, 2D, or 5 on the A string, 2 on the D string. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to worry about getting open strings kind of like floating around, right? So what I think is very interesting about learning this music, and this is really the first time that I even made the connection, because I was, again, self-taught guitar player. This was like the popular music of the time in like maybe junior high, I think it was. Maybe it was high school. I don't even remember. I have no actual memory of that. What I do remember was that fly swatter. I remember being so shook by my great-grandmother hitting me with a fly swatter, because I was like, well, this is just for flies. Why are you hitting me with it? The first time I learned that you could use multi-purpose weapons. So again, very, very related in some strange way to this. But going around there, seeing that, like, okay, these are how riffs can be made. It's like you have a changing root note and then something that stays the same after that, okay? Again, another great example from Blink World is maybe this. They am playing this right key. I feel like that's the right key, right? So this is, you know, a common reoccurring theme in Blink songs. Maybe just have a root note changing over maybe like a higher pitched melody or something like that, right? But the cool thing about this is when you break it down to the chords, it makes a lot of sense, because if we just take that bum ba bum away, we're left with a C note, a G note, an A note, and an F note. And that was my first introduction, like, okay, well, the next part of the song is going to be like a... So those notes then become power chords, or they could even be indicative of, you know, maybe different kind of chords. But that first note is outlining a C major chord, right? Because C major third, then or C, D major third. That next one is also a major chord, G. A would be a minor chord, and then F would be a major chord. So if we were to break that down into numbers to maybe play in a different key, it would be a 1 to a 5 to a 6 to a 4. A 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of C. Again, there's a lot of different ways that you can play that. You can do it in a different key, right? A 1, 5, 6, 4 in D would just look like that. And then you can kind of move those around. Even with, you know, what's my age again? I think it's, I think that's like E. That's just a 1, 5, 6, 4 in a different key. So it was really like the simplicity of these songs that made them so accessible to me as a beginning guitar player, and like understanding like, oh, the creativity is finding a way to outline a C major chord that isn't always just like... And that's kind of one of the things that I thought really separated Blink, is just having like just a fun atmosphere of music that was around some pretty... I still think of these as, for the genre, being sophisticated ways to play songs in a way that was like presented to a listener in just like the utmost glory of pop punk, right? And it wasn't until I went into Guitar Center, evil people at Guitar Center, which is why you want to go to Sweetwater all the time, because you actually get people who care about music and they do the 55-point inspections on all these guitars. But it wasn't until I started hanging out with other guitarists where they're like, oh, Blink sucks. And I'm like, oh, do they suck? Because like, I'm having a lot of fun learning guitar, and like their music is really making this a more accessible instrument to me. And then the more I would talk to like just loser guitar players, they'd be like, oh, Tom DeLonge kind of sucks at guitar, like he's not even that good. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is one of the most, you know, popular bands in the world at the time. And that was when I was really introduced to the toxicity of the gatekeeping of the guitar environment, right? Which I could go on forever about that, and I will. But I do want to take a minute to talk about this guitar. So Sweetwater sent me this. This is an awesome guitar. I initially had some thoughts, reservations on it. And I will say, last week I posted a video on some of the worst guitars ever made. And one person said, what about the Tom DeLonge Starcaster? And it's like, I've never actually heard any bad things said about this guitar from people who've played it. I've only heard positive things. It's like, it is very interesting because it's one knob. It's just a volume knob and one pickup in the bridge. So it's like, well, how versatile could this be? But it's got the Starcaster body shape, which is really, it's upon further inspection, like if you look at it from the back, you can see it's asymmetrical. From the front, it doesn't look as gnarly, but like classic F-holes, locking tuners. It's got kind of like the cool Strat style headstock, and the neck feels so good. Like it's got this lacquer on the back that reminds me of like a more expensive Fender. Like the neck just feels so comfortable, and I'm shocked by how well this plays. Like high key, this is probably the best playing Fender guitar that I've ever played. Which again, you know, it could just be the people at Sweetwater who set it up a certain way, but this like is the best playing Fender guitar I've ever played. Hands down, which is awesome. So I'm like in love with the neck, and I think it's great. It doesn't come with the gig bag, it's just kind of bare bones. But again, this guitar is awesome. Comes in a few different colors. And I like how it's got a matte finish and it doesn't, you know, get all like super shiny on camera, no matter how it's looking, right? So I'll have an affiliate link in the description if you guys are interested in this. I also like where the strap pins are on this, on the back of the plate here. And then the other one is just traditional. But yeah, awesome guitar from an awesome band, right? So it was pretty funny. Like, I started playing guitar, doing a lot of Hendrix stuff, right? Hendrix, Elliott Smith, and Blink-182 were probably like the 3 musical influences upon me starting my journey as a musician. Which is funny because, like, you couldn't really pick 3 more different musical influences. And the cool thing that really drew me to Blink was, like, as I started talking to more musicians, hating on them for whatever stupid, insecure reasons that they had, I think a lot of it is just jealousy, right? Because, like, you know, the music is simple, but, you know, it's catchy and it's, like, fun to play and it just works so well in that atmosphere that I think a lot of it is just kind of jealousy, right? So I think all those guys are, like, amazing players. But the cool thing about that band is, like, they also kind of are in on the joke. Like, there were, like, interviews where Mark Hoppus is like, yeah, I barely know how to play my instrument. I remember there was, like, a big live album that they came out with, and Tom DeLonge was like, all right, everybody, like, quiet down because I need to concentrate this because this is, like, a really hard song to play. And then he would go into What's My Age Again, right? And it's like, oh, is that a hard song to play? Because, like, yeah, I remember when I was trying to play that, I was like, And it's like, even now, I would still prefer to, like, finger pick that one because it's just, like, it makes more sense to me that way. But, I don't know. Those guys never really, you know, claimed to be anything that they weren't. And, yeah, it was a very interesting time in pop music. But, again, I will forever really be, I don't know, grateful to that band just for, like, having, like, just a cool, fun vibe that made great music. I think it was like I got into Enema of the State first, and then I went into Dude Ranch backwards from there, just because everybody was into Enema of the State at the time. And I kind of, my favorite era of that band was probably Dude Ranch. Let me know what your favorite era is in the comments, because I do wonder, like, what the most notable music from them is, just because, like, in the moment it's so different. I actually looked them up on Spotify, and it was like, All the Small Things has, like, over 1 billion streams. I always just assumed that, like, What's My Age Again or Adam's Song would be, like, that's another great example of just a riff that changes just, like, the beginning note. It's pretty funny. Like, I'm having such a nostalgic trip just playing these riffs because, again, super, super interesting. I'll link you to, like, tabs for some of these songs, because if you are maybe looking for a new thing to practice, Blink-182 riffs are something that, like, you can really conceptualize quite easily, but to kind of play them fluidly and on time is another story that, you know, might not be as easy as you think upon further review. So anyways, I just was excited to try out this guitar, talk a little bit about Blink-182, because I don't know, it's one of those bands who the people have a lot of hot takes on, but I'll forever think of them as being, like, a really great band in my formative years. And if you guys are interested, you should definitely check out this Starcaster on Sweetwater, because it's a lot like that Fly Swatter in that you wouldn't think it would be so versatile, but, like, even when I play what is kind of more my style on it, like, I really feel like this thing is voiced super well, even though it doesn't even have, like, any tone control. That was my biggest concern, was like, all right, well, there's no tone control. I hope it's not too shrill, especially being in the bridge. But honestly, I think it sounds pretty good. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you again to Sweetwater for sending the guitar over response to the video, and I will see you guys in the next video.